So just making certain that you have space to either side of you, that you've got room where you can step your legs wide so that as we go through the golden seed part of practice, that you have safe space around you. But we'll begin by just rooting into our feet here and maybe letting the weight shift from your toes into your heels. And if your body is just slowly getting moving this morning, this might feel like a really good grounding practice, just to really feel your feet underneath you, get that sense of connection and mobility and weight, soft knees, maybe even let your body bounce a little bit here. And when you feel you've had enough of that movement, just allow yourself to settle into a comfortable way of standing. Thinking of sourcing that same sensation of alignment that you might find when you're setting yourself up seated. So we think of rooting down and in the same turn rising up, letting ourselves take up space. And then thinking of dropping your tailbone and letting the pubic bone push forward slightly. So this is just going to engage the core a little bit, stabilize the spine and the hips. And it's just a light engagement. You want to be able to still take full breaths here. Allow your eyes to close if that feels okay for you. Otherwise, maybe just a soft downward turned gaze. Release your shoulders from their hiking up towards the ears. Let there be some softness that comes across your face. And maybe offer a beautiful deep breath to yourself here as you more formally land. Let's just invite the hands to rest in front of the low belly. The thumb and the first finger can come together to make a little triangle, kind of over the navel or maybe a little bit lower. And begin to lengthen and deepen your breath here. Allow your abdomen to be mostly soft, still that tiny bit of engagement for structural support. Can you breathe into your hands? And can you direct your awareness in such a way that it feels as though you are breathing through the soles of your feet? You're drawing energy up and in with your inhalations, and then it recycles and it drops back down your body and into the earth. So you're just making this connection. Feeling the entirety of your body breathe rather than just the mechanics of the lungs moving. And we'll do 3 releasing breaths. And when you come to exhale, it's a ha sound. Just adding a little bit of texture, a slightly different context. So we'll do 3 cycles of this deep in and then the ha sound on the way out. And we'll take that first inhale here through the nose if possible. And let it go. And 2 more. Last one. And just notice how that feels in your body, trying to stay connected to a slightly deeper flow of breath. And maybe you come to step your feet a little bit wider. Maybe you come to stay exactly as you are and you just shift your feet. Let the hips be loose. Maybe do a few little figure eights here. That's usually a pretty good indicator as to whether you need to widen your stance or not. And then we'll soften back in here and come into some Sushumna clearing. So we allow the arms to float in front of the body. The wrists are relaxed, the fingers are relaxed. And with your next inhalation, scooping energy up towards the crown. And then as you exhale, sweep down your space. Inhaling, gathering what you need. Exhaling, releasing what no longer serves, and just sweeping clear your space. And you're just going to cycle through these Sushumna sweeps in accordance with your own breath, so everyone will have just a slightly different rhythm. Not trying to rush any of this. And maybe you're layering in a bit of a texture to your breath as you're doing this, so a slight ujjayi, oceanic or whispering sound. And with this next sweep, we inhale super big. Exhale with that ha. Let the hands come back to rest over the low belly, that Dan Chen part. Notice how you're doing. And we come into a few rounds of fingers through the clouds. So this is a lateral movement. We go side to side. Allow your feet to move. You don't need to be glued to the ground. Just reminding yourself that these Taoist forms of movement are very fluid and ever changing. So we want that mobility and that intuitive response to the suggested movements. You could sweep high or low or play between different ranges. And then we'll slowly start to rein this motion in. Just taking your time as you start to work your way back towards center. And rather than resting the hands in front of the low belly with that little triangle, we're going to hold a little orb here. So just imagining you have a little crystal ball or something along those lines. Add some color to it, some texture if you wish, and just flip this little orb around. Play with the energy. You could lift it up, you could shift it around. Again, that intuitive piece takes over once you've got the suggested movement in place. And then you'll come to hold this little orb up towards your heart center. Just pausing here for a moment. You might have a palpable sense of energy between your palms. We're going to take that energy and pack it into our heart center. Just stack the hands one on top of the other for a moment. Breathe into your hands. And we'll start to space the feet a little bit wider if you were in a slightly narrow stance. The idea here being able to bend into the knees. So the heels are in, the toes are out. It might be a little squat, it might be a fairly deep one. And then we'll release the hands back down to the Danchen. Softness in your knees and remembering to let your feet move. So we're going to go through the golden seed at least twice, probably 3 times. And as I was mentioning at the beginning of practice, we're going to slow this down. So the very first round, we're going to pause in each position for a couple rounds of breath. And then the cycles that come afterwards will have a little more fluidity and pace to them. So just double checking that you're comfortable with the spacing of your legs, that mobility. And we begin from here. Your next inhalation, you're gathering chi. Slowly scooping through space, collecting what you need. We're just going to pause with the hands overhead. Maybe your fingertips touch, so you're making a little halo for yourself. And then we're going to crisscross the wrists, so the palms are facing out to either side. And as you come across your next exhalation, you begin to bend into the knees, bend into the elbows, and we're sinking in here. And whenever you're ready, release the hands. The wrists stay flexed, and you're pushing out to the sides like you're splitting walls. This is our open horse stance. When we come to release, we straighten the legs, turn the toes in, the heels out, and we do a slow motion dive down and into elephant pose. So if the hands don't reach the earth, brace yourself to shins or thighs. And we stay here for a moment. Maybe you come to shake out your head side to side, up and down a few times. Softening back to a place of center, anchoring into your right hand. You're going to sweep the left arm up and open, elephant swinging its trunk. Wiggle through the fingers, roll through the wrist. And then we'll gently release the hands, trade places. So the left one anchors, the right one swings up and open. And again, we wiggle and roll. And slowly let that go. Turning the heels in, the toes out, starting to bend into your knees. We sweep up through center, coming into rocking horse. So you could do this with the arms reaching to the sky, or you could be a little looser and it's like you're holding reins. And then we come into our drinking bird, pivot on the feet again, straighten the legs, and slowly dive forward, letting the arms swing out behind you, much like a bird would do drinking out of a pond. Releasing those wings, we connect to earth, turn the heels in, the toes out, Soften into the knees, scoop up a little bit of earth energy, and slowly start to uncurl as you draw your body up towards standing. Somewhere around your heart space, reach up, make that connection to sky. And slow and steady, we invite all of this beautiful chi that we've cultivated down and down and down and down, back to the Dan Chen. Pause and feel. Adjust in your legs and in your feet. Maybe you come back to do a few little hip circles here in this little transition point. And we'll go through the series 2 more times. We're going to just speed it up a teeny tiny bit. Okay. Your next inhalation, gather chi. Crisscross those wrists. As you come to an exhale, begin to bend into the knees, bend into the elbows, sink yourself down and in, and then reach the arms out to the side, open horse. The arms are strong, even squeeze into your shoulder blades here. And then we dive. We straighten the legs, pivot on the feet, and fold forward, coming into your version of elephant pose. Anchoring onto the right side, inhaling, sweeping that left arm up. And maybe play with the arm, just let it forage around, much like an elephant would do with its trunk, looking for food. Release the left arm down. Right arm goes on its little expedition and exploration, wiggling, moving around. And then we'll release back to our center, heels in, toes out, beginning to bend into those knees. We sweep into rocking horse, whatever version you feel like working with. And then we release into our drinking bird, pivoting on those feet, folding forward, wings flying out behind you. Releasing, heels in, toes out, scoop up earth energy, draw your way up. Extend heart up to sky. And sink. Last round, so just take a moment to adjust your feet. The video just froze. Okay. Last cycle of the golden seed. Inhaling, reaching up to sky, gathering the chi. Crisscross those wrists, begin to sink down and in. Open horse stance, going wide. Cultivate the energy here. Open heart. And then we dive. Folding forward, elephant pose. Left arm stretches up. We'll keep it long this time. Maybe just wiggle those fingers. And let it go. Trading places, right arm reaches, maybe wiggling your fingers. And release. Heels in, toes out, begin to bend into those knees, sweep up through center, rocking horse. Diving into your drinking bird, pivoting on those feet, legs long, wings swing out behind you. And let it go, hands to earth. Adjust the feet. Scoop up your earth energy, bringing the body up. Extend, make your connection to sky. And sink the chi. Bring it home. Embedding what you need and flushing out what you don't, all in one movement. Hands back to the Dan Chen. We'll just step the feet a little bit closer underneath us, giving the legs a little bit of a break. Maybe coming back into a bit of gentle bouncing here, if that would feel beneficial for you. And then we'll bring ourselves down to the mat. So just finding your way down. Maybe you transition through a low squat. Maybe it's a little bit of a down dog, or you just kind of fold and wiggle your way around and down. Having blanket or cushion nearby. And we're going to start in deer pose. So the legs swinging out to the left side. So the right shin is in front of your body, the left leg is behind. And if you're a little bit tippy here, like you feel like you're fighting the posture, this is where blanket or cushion will come in handy, and you wedge it underneath that right hip to just help level off your pelvis. And if having both legs bent is disagreeable to your knees, especially that back one, just straighten out that left leg and worry about what's going on with the right one. So finding your fit. And maybe taking the legs a little bit wider if that would feel good for you. And we'll start here, just settling into the hips. So if you're in the deer pose with both knees bent, there might be a strong sensation or some kind of sensation through the groin, the inner thigh of that left leg. And we're just settling in here. Slowing the breath down, maybe creating some balance between your in and your out breath. And seeing where you might be able to let go within your physical form. What muscles are overworking themselves right now? Could you bring just a modicum of ease to them? And then maybe continue to soften further the longer that you stay. And for some, this might be enough, and you just stay exactly as you are, just continuing to breathe and settle into your base. The next option to this is to do a lateral or a side bend and slowly dip over towards the left side. And the head will just turn down wherever it feels comfortable, so there's minimal holding and strain in the neck. And just keep coming back to the breath over and over again. Where else can you let go? We've got 2 more nice deep breaths here. And you'll come out of that lateral bend so the spine straightens up. Take a few breaths, just letting that portion of the body recalibrate. And then when you're ready, releasing the legs completely, letting them stretch out in front of you, and coming to lean back on your hands. Feeling the body open up here. Those little rivulets of chi as they go flushing through your body. And then we'll lift ourselves up and come to create that deer pose to the other side. So taking the legs off to the right, the knees are bent, kind of a 90-90. And again, if that back knee is taking too much pressure, it's not agreeable to your body, just straighten it out and worry about what's going on in that left leg. So ideally, if you had done the straight leg version the first time through, you're going to bring that back into your practice here, just for the sake of balance. Patting up that left hip if you find yourself tilting over a little too much. And once again, we begin with this settling process, just being exactly as we are, making subtle adjustments until we can allow the body to be still. So moving if necessary for ease, but not moving for the sake of distracting yourself, of giving your body something to do rather than be still. Seeing if there's anywhere else that you might be able to let go in these opening moments of the deer pose. Anchoring yourself into breath. And if you had explored that lateral bend the first time through, you'll invite that into your practice here, letting the body slightly tip off towards the right side, just based on those edges your body is willing to entertain. And allowing for the head to drop into a comfortable place where there's minimal holding. Breathe and allow here. Three more breaths to your deer pose. And taking your time as you release from the lateral expression, keeping the legs as they are for just a couple more breaths, getting that upward chi rush first. And then we come to release, bringing the legs long and either scooping forward here for a slightly different perspective or opening yourself into that nice little beach repose. So whatever makes sense for your body here. And sitting ourselves up. So if you have a natural rear motion in your pelvis, you'll want blanket or cushion underneath your sits bones here. We're going to do caterpillar pose just for a couple of minutes, so a shorter visit than we might normally do. And if there's intense pressure behind your knees, you could use your hands and just tuck them underneath that joint space. So the idea with caterpillar is that we fold forward. If there's a little tummy in the way, you can take your hands, push the flesh back and up like a little scooping motion, and then that gives you a little bit of extra mobility here with the ability to still breathe as well. Sometimes when we fold forward and the tummy's in the way, it's near impossible to breathe. So that little shift of flesh makes a big difference. And you allow your spine to curl, your head to drop if that feels okay. Legs are relaxed, so if they happen to be tensing and resisting, see if you could soften that experience to some extent. No straining or striving. We're not trying to fold our body completely in half, torso to thighs. Just rounding. And for your next couple of breaths, if it would feel safe to do so, you'll reach the hands down the legs, find somewhere to hold on to. And now we're purposely adding some effort here. Inhaling, there's a release. Exhale, you try to pull yourself further deeper into the fold. Inhale, let it go slightly. Exhale, fold again. Maybe one more time if you're exploring this. And gradually letting go. We're going to turn ourselves over onto our bellies on the mat for the rebound here. Taking your time as you get there. Maybe stacking fists or hands to support your forehead as you come down. And if you feel like you need to wiggle your hips just to look after a tender low back in the transition, then absolutely add that bit of movement. Eventually settling into your still point here, body breathing against the earth, and just noticing how that awareness feels in your body. And from here, we'll transition into Sphinx. So coming up onto the elbows and forearms, and we position the arms close to the body so the forearms are parallel to one another and holding you up. So not flailing out to the side, close to center. And then purposely picking up one leg and dragging it away from your body, like someone's tugging on your ankles. And you could push the tops of the feet into the mat here for a moment just to create some strength. Push the pelvis into the floor, squeezing those glutes. And then we let all of that effort go. Relax the legs, the glutes, the spine, rib cage draping towards the ground. Could you stay here? Surrendered as much as possible. And if being in this Sphinx pose is a little too sensational in your low back, then squeeze your glutes about half strength just to create some extra support there. So either completely relaxed or about half strength in the glutes and in the legs, with the option to let your head drop. Beautiful deep breaths all along the way. And for some, this might be more than enough, just being in this direct alignment with the spine. For others, it might feel okay to do a little bit of an opening through the ribs. So if you want to try on a little bit of a lateral sphinx, we'll walk the hands, the forearms off to the left. The lower part of your body stays anchored, and you just go as far as the body is willing to carry you. So we get heavy in the body. As you breathe, you might feel a spreading and a releasing through the ribs on the right side. Couple more breaths here if you've come into this lateral sphinx. And then you'll release and walk your way back towards center. Take a moment to recalibrate there if you're doing this sideways movement. And then we're going to walk off to the right side with the ribs. So now spreading into the left edge of the body if you're exploring this facet of the practice. Hips are heavy. Left ribs spreading a little bit wider. Two more cycles of breath here. And we gradually come back towards a place of center and lower all the way down, coming back to your prone resting pose. Hands find their way underneath. And gradually helping your body through to some form of child's pose that resonates for you today. Might be a wide child's pose or something tight knit, somewhere in between. So finding your fit, sinking in. And could you offer 6 super deep breaths here, maybe coming back to that releasing layer of in through nose and then a bit of a ha as you exhale. And after your 6 cycles of breath, taking your time as you bring yourself over onto your back on the mat. Gathering up any props you feel you might need for your Shavasana, just having them within arm's reach, and then drawing your knees towards your chest. Maybe a little bit of rocking would feel really good for your body here. And when that bit of rocking and hugging has done its job, let the feet find the ground. Knees fairly wide, feet fairly wide, and arms open as well. It's being more aware of this rooting and grounding process that's occurring for you. And we'll pick up that left leg, invite the heel to hook over the right knee thigh, and you might need to adjust the spacing of your legs slightly. So a figure 4 position here. And we're just going to twist slow and steady off to one side and then drift the other. So you're kind of traveling coast to coast, left to right here. Your movements might be quite large, or they might be a little more centralized depending on your hips, your spine. And the next time that your legs start to fall off to the left side, could you hang out there? Stay in a stable twist. You might need to play with the placement of your feet and your legs to find a comfortable approach. We exhale, contract, bring everything back to center, pause. And then see about doing the same thing now off to the right. The legs fall right, you adjust accordingly, and we stay here for a few rounds of breath. Exhale, contract, come back to your center. Uncross those legs, bring your hips level underneath you, and take a moment to pause and observe. Right ankle now finds its way on top of the left knee thigh. And we play with that swaying dynamic twist side to side. Whenever you come to reach over to the right the next time, pause there, anchor into a steady twist. Exhale, scoops everything back to center. And then we drop off to the left and again stabilize, offering a few breaths here. Exhale to come back to your center. Uncross. Shimmy around in your space and then guide your body into a version of Shavasana that feels good and nourishing for you today. So it could be the feet stay to the ground and the knees just fall in towards the midline. It could be that you find your support and tuck it underneath knees or head or anywhere else. And then you give yourself that precious permission to be still, to allow for the efforts of your practice to sink in. No more efforting, no more doing. You are now entering into that phase of simply being for an extended period of time. And all you need to do is breathe and allow and let everything else go. And coming to invite your awareness back in. And as you breathe and feel your way into your surroundings once again, a little note of positive energy to close practice today. You are amazing just as you are. More beautiful than you can see, stronger than you feel, and more worthy than you will ever know. And taking those words in, starting to breathe a little deeper, inviting movements back to your system, stretching, wiggling, yawning, doing what feels great. And in your own time, finding your way to a place of sitting when you're ready. And when you find yourself in that space where your body aligns itself between heaven and earth, let the hands land at the heart, either stacking one on top of the other or joined together in Anjali Mudra, the prayer pose at the heart. Gratitude for this day, this moment, and these opportunities that allow us to connect and share practices together. And a bow of thanks to all of the conditions and circumstances of life that opened up to allow us to share these times. One final releasing breath in and let it go. Thank you for your practice. Namaste.